Okay, good morning. Here we are in Manly, Australia. I'm with Mike Hood, the new owner of the boat. And today we're going to service our Volvo MD2030 engines. So we're going to do an oil change, fuel filter change, and also an impeller change. So let's just take a look at how to do that. Okay, our first step is the fuel filter. And I'm just going to turn off the valve here, which closes the fuel, entering the fuel filter. And now we'll take it apart. You going?
Yep.
So now we're just going to unscrew the top. Okay, so I've put a bucket just underneath it to trap any fuel that we drop, rather than it go to the bilge, and we'll take out the filter, which is pretty brown in color, so that's not too bad, but it definitely need to put in a new one at this point.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to use a 14mm socket wrench just to loosen the nut in the bottom and drain out the fuel in the filter now. Okay, so we've just taken the bowl out and the fuel is dropped into the bucket. Okay, I'm just going to clean out all the bowls with some rags. Okay, I'm just going to splash some fuel in here just to get out any of the big particulates. It just falls into that bucket. Okay, now we're just going to put in the new filter and we'll replace the gasket. Okay. Just going to put a little oil on or gasoline on the gasket first, and then it slides back into here. Okay, okay. I'm just going to screw the bolt back on to the bottom now that we've cleaned it. Okay, and now just to help bleed the fuel filter, I'm going to fill this up with fuel. Okay, and then the last step with the pre-fuel filter is just to screw the top back on. Okay, next we'll put on the fuel filter, now that the pre-fuel filter is done. Okay, so now I'm going to take the fuel filter off. I'm going to use the tool that grips it, and I've put a plastic bag underneath it to help capture any fuel that would fall. Just unscrew it like so. Okay, and it's off. Now I'm just going to fill up the new fuel filter to remove all air. Just give it a little bit of diesel. Okay, now I'm just going to lubricate the seal a bit so that flush seals tightly. A little bit of diesel. It doesn't have to be filled completely. It'll actually bleed itself. And we'll screw it back on.
And just hand tight's good enough.
Yep. And then the very important last step is just to remember to reopen the fuel valve so when you start the engine, the fuel can go through the system. Okay, now that fuel filters are done, we're going to change the impellers as our second step. So this is the impeller housing, and we're just going to take the impeller that's out and the gasket that's out and put a new one in. Okay, so we're just unscrewing the 6 screws that hold the housing on, very carefully. Okay, with all the screws out, I can take the cover off, and there's the old gasket right on there, and then there's the old impeller. So we use a pair of pliers to pull that out. Okay, so final pull out, and here you can actually see we're missing a blade. So even though it's only been 150 hours, the impeller broke a blade, so definitely time to change it up. Okay, we're just going to use some 400 grit sandpaper, dry sandpaper, just to take off the old gasket, make it smooth again. Okay, so it's now nice and smooth on the edges. We're ready to put the impeller on. Okay, now we're going to put the new impeller in. We're going to use the lubricant that it came with it, which is basically, you could use any sort of silicone lubricant like KY jelly or anything else, but we use the stuff it came with. We're just going to lubricate it up so that it doesn't run dry and you don't lose any other impeller bits. And when I put it on the shaft, I have to put it onto the shaft and make sure that that bar through the middle there fits flushly. And then I'll also bend the blades in the direction that it's going to rotate, which in this case is counterclockwise, looking towards the fore of the boat.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm just going to bend the blades and shove it back in. Okay, now that the impeller is in, we're just going to lubricate the new gasket with the same provided lubricant. And then we'll put it onto the outer casing, like so, before we screw it on. Okay, so I'm just putting 2 screws in to secure it into place, and I'll put the housing back on. So just hand screwing in all 6 screws before tightening them with the screwdriver. Okay, now that the screws are on and the new impeller has been installed, I'll just quickly check the pre-water filter just to see if there's anything in the basket. In this case, it looks like there's a little bit of algae, but there's really nothing in there at all. So that's clear. Now we're done with the impeller and water side. Okay, so now we've changed the fuel pre-filter, the fuel filter, the freshwater impeller, and we've checked the water basket. Now Mike is going to start this engine, and we'll just hope that it self-bleeds itself. If not, we'll go through the process of bleeding the engine next. Usually it does manage to self-bleed. Okay, so now Mike is going to start the engine. Get started right away. So once you give it a few revs to 1500 RPM, we'll let the engine oil get hot and we'll change the oil next. We also just want to check to make sure that the impeller is working and water is going through the engine.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, with the engine hot, I'm just going to take off the oil plug at the bottom of the engine, and then we'll use this oil, pull back, we'll use this oil pump just to siphon out all the warm oil. Just like so. It's a great oil pump because once you get it going, you don't have to keep pumping, and we can hear now that the hose is pulling air through it to the oil pump, so the oil is out. Okay, now I'm just going to use a plastic bag to try and capture some of the oil, and if not, we've got some oilcloth ready. And with the bag in place, we can start to unscrew the oil filter, which is now very hot. Like so. This is able to trap most of the oil and the filter in the bag. Gasket. Again, I'm just going to lubricate the gasket on the oil filter,
Yeah.
and then screw a new one on. And then we fill it up with oil. Okay, and we're just going to put the oil back in the top of the engine. Actually, first I'm going to put the little cap back on the drain,
Good idea.
and then we'll fill it with oil.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to forget that, would you?
I don't even know if it would pour out, but there goes the new oil. Taking the dipstick out, we're just going to check, and we're right there between half marks.
Yeah, perfect.
So it looks like we're good. We'll run the engine, get it hot, then check the level again just to make sure it's okay. But I think we're good. Okay, and with that I think we're all set. We've taken care of the fuel filter, the pre-fuel filter, the fuel filter. We changed the impeller out of the impeller casing, checked the freshwater basket, and we've changed the engine oil. So now the engine is ready for its next 200 hours of service. And now we can go sailing. Well, actually, now we have to do the other engine.
Thank you. That's my job.